the first iteration of the dynasty is over. They need to follow the Patriots method of creating that second wave of dynasty and what Patrick Mahomes' 30s look like.
All right, everybody, and welcome back. As always, I am your party host, Joe Rivera, and along with me, as always, is one of the preeminent ball knowers at USA Today Sports, and that's Chris Bumbaca. Boom. Week 15 is in the books. Massive Sunday happened yesterday. Phillip Rivers comes back. Looks like an old guy. We'll touch on Phillip Rivers. You have the Bills coming back to down the Patriots in a massive game. Devontae Adams re-injures his hamstring. Lots and lots and lots of stuff, but elephant in the room, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. Again, We'll get to that too, but we got to talk about Micah Parsons and the Packers. Boom. First, actually, let's start here. How was your Sunday? Let's start there.
Sunday was great. Sunday was great. How's that? Patriots Bills is a fun game to cover. Yeah. Pats get out 21-0. I'm writing my story about how the AFC East title returns to Foxborough, and then Josh Allen does superhuman things, and the defense on the Bills side gets it together, and Drake May looks like a second-year quarterback. So came back, wrote our Sunday newsletter, which you should all be subscribing to. Sitting down with Joe Rivera now. Let's get after it, man. Yeah, it was a crazy day.
Yeah, and crazy, and we got to talk about the injuries, right? So let's start in the NFC North, Boom, and Micah Parsons, prize acquisition of the Packers this preseason, played like Micah Parsons this season all year. Fortunately, it sounds like he's got a torn ACL, which means his 2025 season is, in fact, over. Some doubts about whether the start of the 2026 season are on the table, but just for now, Boom, let's talk about Micah Parsons and the Packers here. Your biggest takeaway from that are the Packers. What do you think? Are they still Super Bowl contenders here, even without Micah Parsons? What's your read on Green Bay's situation right now?
It's hard for me to imagine them as, competing in that late January, early February window, which is Super Bowl time, right? Like, they're still a playoff team to me, but as far as making it to that Final Four, to that Super Bowl 60 matchup in California, I just am not there anymore because you need a stud pass rush, right? And Micah was such a big reason behind that. Like, yes, Quay Walker for the Packers is having a nice year, but a little bit of a drop-off from Rashawn Gary, Lucas Van Ness rushing it a little bit more from the inside. So you really needed Micah on that edge, wreaking havoc as he does against these defenses to take this team over the top, and I just don't really see that for them without it.
Yeah, and the thing is with Micah, it's when you boil it down to what the old football cliche is, you got to protect your quarterback and hit theirs, right? And if you can't hit their quarterback, that's already half the equation out the window. And Jordan Love, for however much I've been, maybe not as high on him as others on this podcast, and I've said he's been inconsistent all season, he's certainly played well, right? Like, you can't take that he's played to the level of a guy who can win you a Super Bowl this year, but you need other things. You need health. Again, you need a pass rush, to your point. So we'll see if the Packers can keep it together. But let's take a wider look at the playoff equation here, Boom. And the NFC, we got 6 teams looking like they're fighting for 5 spots. Who you got here? You're looking at Detroit, who's playing pretty inconsistent football. What's your biggest, when the music stops, who do you got at the top at the NFC North?
Yeah, when the music stops, I'm still going to take the Packers, I think, just because of Jordan Love, like you were saying. I think it's the best coach team right now. I think they have the best identity through their quarterback, but I'm not going to rule out the Bears either, sitting there now in the number 2 seed in the NFC, top that division. Obviously Sunday's game is massive, right? I don't see the Lions winning that division anymore. They've been too much in the win-loss rut, as Dan Campbell kind of called it yesterday. They haven't been able to string any wins together since the beginning of the season. So I'm still gonna ride with the Packers in the North, but it all comes down to Sunday at Soldier Field. It's gonna be exciting.
Yeah, and I think the thing with Detroit, and we all saw it this year, right? It's difficult to replace one coordinator. It's hard enough to replace 2 coordinators, and then you have injuries. Detroit's been banged up on the defensive side of the ball this year. You have Dan Campbell taking over play calling duties. Clearly something was not right there offensively. It still hasn't looked great. There's been no consistency at all. So, yeah, I think it's safe to say it probably comes down to the Packers and the Bears there. And like you said, Week 16 game, Soldier Field, for all the marbles pretty much at this point. So we'll see. Ben Johnson, again, we praised him on this podcast last week, and we love the guy, right? For the most part, like these are the games that you're brought in to win, though, right? Like as a head coach, we've said on this vodcast before, when you're hiring a head coach, it's bad enough when teams hire a guy just for your quarterback, and at times it kind of felt that way with Ben Johnson. Like they're hiring Ben Johnson because they want to unlock Caleb Williams, but this is a game that's going to prove to us if Ben Johnson is the head coach that we all think he is, and he's going to bring them over the top and really push them to the top of the NFC North. So we'll see. Very interesting game in Week 16.
Yeah. Yeah, a couple more reasons why I'll stick with the Packers pick too in the North is that the Bears have the toughest remaining schedule in the league. I think they have Packers, Niners, which is a huge wild card playoff matchup for both those teams. Kind of the loser, especially on the Bears side, might not have the best path into the wild card after that. And then they end with the Lions. So that's a brutal December, January stretch there. Going to be a fun test for Ben Johnson in his first year at the helm.
Yeah. All right, boom. Let's head over to the AFC. And listen, this is the biggest story of Week 15 is the Chiefs officially eliminated from playoff contention this year, ending their reign, ending their run at the top. You know, it's safe to throw the dirt on them now. I mean, not only are the Chiefs eliminated, but Patrick Mahomes tears his ACL, right? And 9 to 12 months recovery time. That leaves part potentially of the 2026 season in jeopardy for Mahomes' return. Where do the Chiefs go from here, Boom? It feels like there's a bit of a transition coming, or a transition that should come, at least when it comes to their roster.
Yeah, I think we talked about it last week. You kind of need to remake this entire thing from the inside out, in my opinion. That offensive line is a mess. Can't run the ball at all. I don't think that's ever been the issue during Andy Reid's Chiefs tenure is not necessarily the caliber of running back. There's always been lanes and holes for him to go through. Not the case here, at least in the 2024-2025 seasons, kind of. So they really need to address that offensive line. You know, moving on from Joe Tooney, who's having a revitalization in Chicago, doesn't look like a great move in hindsight now. You know, the way that they went about addressing the tackles obviously did not work. Like they really need some serious reinvestment and just complete clearing of the slate, I think, on the offensive and defensive lines. What's Chris Jones going to do in the middle of that D line? Who knows, you know, whether he's ready to move on. You have the Travis Kelce question. You know, he's got maybe no time left. You know, maybe he's done after this year. So I mean, there's just a lot of holes on that roster when you look at it honestly. And now that the quarterback is injured, it's going to be quite a lot of work there for that front office.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, Boom. And there's so many layers to this, right? Like you mentioned, Travis Kelce. What's the saying? When you start thinking about retirement, you're already retired, right? And how many times has Travis Kelce been asked about it? And we know about his much publicized romance and forthcoming marriage to Taylor Swift. And who knows if
he's toast.
He's done. He's totally cooked. That's it. He's a married man. He'll be a married man. He's over. I mean, listen, man. There's a lot here with the Chiefs that needs to be discussed, right? Number one, I laughed a little bit when I saw a report that said the Chiefs are looking to reinvest big time into the running back position. And it's like, do you know Andy Reid? Like Andy Reid, yes, he likes his running backs, but at the same time, he's not a guy who's ever really invested big into the running back position. I know you give the first round pick to Clyde Edwards-Helaire. You think at the time coming out of LSU, here's a guy that's really going to work well in that Chiefs system, and then it just didn't work, right? And then you plug and play with other guys through the years, and they've obviously made it work, but I'm not sure if a massive investment is coming, but maybe it should, right? At the end of the day, Andy Reid's DNA is who he is. Like I saw him give Kevin Kolb meaningful snaps in a must-win game when he was still with the Eagles rather than running the ball and milking the clock. So like this is a guy who is going to live and die by his system and the way that he wins football games and has won football games. So it's going to be interesting to see where the Chiefs go, man. $44 million over the cap. Listen, the cap's not real. They're going to find ways to finagle that and massage that a little bit, but it doesn't really leave them with a lot of wiggle room, especially when it comes to free agency. You're going to be looking at rebuilding this team through potentially trades, drafting. I don't know what the solution is here. So it's going to be fun to watch. It feels like this is the first real adversity that the Chiefs face in the Patrick Mahomes era. It's just really saying something. It's in a remarkable stretch of success, but still work to be done once the offseason rolls in.
No, I totally think they need to take a long-term view of this, right? Like the first iteration of the dynasty is over. They need to follow the Patriots method of creating that second wave of dynasty and what Patrick Mahomes' 30s look like. So I would, my initial thought is like, don't try and do a bunch of quick fixes for 2026 or even 2027. Think about 28 to 31, right? 28 to 32. Capitalize on Mahomes's mid to late 30s and try and win a few more championships that way. That's what I would do. Another huge story from Sunday was the return of Uncle Philip Rivers, the 44-year-old starting for the Indianapolis Colts. He almost led them on a game-winning field goal drive, but sadly, as always, his defense could not hang on to it for him. Shades of San Diego Chargers, Phil, except this time in Indy, as the Seahawks kicked a game winner to win 18-16. Phil was 18 to 27 for 120 passing yards. Not a crazy stat line there, but he had a touchdown, also a pick. I mean, I don't have too many strong thoughts about it other than the fact that, like, yes, he got the ball out on time, which is all you could kind of ask for a guy we've signed midweek. My biggest takeaway was he was doing an homage to the late, great Jared Lorenzen with the way that he looked out there. Phil definitely in coaching shape and not playing shape, I would say. But Joe, I think you have some strong feelings here, so I'll just give
Yeah.
you the floor here.
Yeah, boom. I'm going to be a little bit of a Grinch here. I know we're in the middle of the holiday season. Everybody's got the holiday spirit, but I hate almost everything about this story. Like it just bothers me in a multitude of ways. I think the biggest takeaway for me is like the NFL is not a place for fairy tale endings, right? Like how often do we see guys really ride off into the sunset? They win the Super Bowl, they retire, they're happy. Philip Rivers has never won a Super Bowl. We know his history with you alluded to this defense is always giving up games late, which is probably fair. His future Hall of Famer in all likelihood, but it's a feel good story. But I just don't see this ending well. What does it say about the state of quarterback play in 2025 when your best option, or you feel is your best option, is a 44-year-old quarterback who hasn't played since the COVID season, right? And I know that their season is spiraling, and I know that this is cue for PR, and it's good for headlines, and we all had fun with it. And you know what? Good for Philip Rivers. I'm not trying to denigrate him at all, but it just doesn't feel good to, like, I don't like this at all. Like, you're here to win football games. It's hard for me to believe that Philip Rivers gives you the best chance. And listen, on the flip side of that, the Seahawks should be a little bit embarrassed that they didn't run this guy out of town, right? Like, this is probably the best defense in football this year, having to rely on all of those field goals to beat a 44-year-old quarterback coming out off the couch is impressive. And to your point, he played okay, but I don't know, man. It bothers me. Like, I don't like anything about this at all. I think it's an indictment on the way that we develop quarterbacks in the NFL. I think it's almost a bad look for the Colts to say, hey, why don't we give the shot to a guy who's been retired forever, right? Like, reset his Hall of Fame clock. There's just nothing about it that I really like, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, a couple things there, Joe, in the sense of like at the timing in the season, like you can't trade for a guy at this point. So, I mean, that limits their options, right? So I'm not going to go there as far as indictment of quarterback development. Maybe within the Colts room, but they've had 3 injuries now: Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard. So, that is what it is. And also, like, would you have rather seen Ben DiNucci come off the couch and play? Like, I think this is a way better entertainment option, and they almost won the game. Like, I think they have they're not in that position with a Ben DiNucci-esque type guy. Sorry, Ben, for name dropping you like this. Like, throw in any other guy, Kurt Banker, whatever, whoever's sitting on the couch right now. Ryan Tannehill told me that he was not going to do it, but like we'll put him in that category too.
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd rather see Phil Rivers in that
yeah,
spot just because of what he almost won them the game.
yeah, and it's good for us, right? Like, there's no hiding that. Like, it's good
It
for
was
the
also
thought
almost good for the
factory.
Colts, though. That's my main point.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. Like, I don't know what the ceiling is for Philip Rivers after this, right?
That's not the
Like,
point. There's no the ceiling isn't the point. Like they're just trying to win a couple games to get into the playoffs and see
right.
if Riley
If
Leonard can get back healthy and run the offense and hand it off to Jonathan Taylor a little bit.
Right. I think ultimately, I think that's the end game here, right? If Riley Leonard is okay to play and his knee is okay, then I'd like to see Riley Leonard start before Philip Rivers. Like if his main goal is going to be to run the ball a little bit, hand it off to Jonathan Taylor, then cool, right? I look at this Philip Rivers situation, and to me, it's like there's no happiness there. It reeks of desperation to me. Is what it is. And yeah, I think the Colts are definitely a little bit desperate. They're looking at their remaining schedule. I know they play the 49ers. Pretty sure they play the Jaguars. So it's like you're looking at a very realistic scenario where they finish 8-9, like an 8-game losing streak to end the season. So, or whatever it is. So I don't know, man. Like I see it and I get like you're past the trade deadline and, practice squad guys might not be appealing. I know Sam Ellinger was out there and he played a few snaps with the Colts. Like, I don't know. It just feels weird to me. And again, this isn't a Philip Rivers thing because like good for Philip Rivers. He said there was a message to his kids to not be afraid and to have no doubt and all that stuff, which is good. It's feel good, but I just don't see this ending well for either side. All right, boom. We're sticking with the theme of quarterbacks today. And one of the most talked about quarterbacks in the last week has been Cincinnati Bengals passer Joe Burrow. Now, Burrow had a very cryptic, sad press conference talking about how he needs to find the fun and he needs to have fun doing this. And it raised a lot of eyebrows. It's a very interesting quote from a guy getting paid a lot of money to play for a hometown team, playing with some of his top teammates he's had head back to college and Jamar Chase. And there's a lot of questions surrounding Joe Burrow and the Bengals right now. I'm just going to hit it with you straight, boom. Do you think Burrow's career is being wasted in Cincinnati?
Well, first of all, Joe, we love a man who shows some vulnerability, right? Like,
Absolutely.
good for him. He's always done
Yes.
this too, by the way. Like, I've been a huge Joe Burrow guy dating back to my days of covering Nebraska football recruiting when the Cornhuskers fans were pounding the table for Joe to transfer because his dad was actually a longtime assistant over in Lincoln. So there was a family connection there. Didn't happen, right? He goes to LSU, has a decent first transfer year, wins the Heisman in a national championship in his second. That LSU team being one of the favorite teams I've ever watched in my entire life. So I've been a Joe Burrow guy for a really long time. In the Heisman speech, he's talking about feeding kids in his home county and things like that. Like he's a guy who wears his emotions on his sleeve, and he's also a guy who sees the world in a much different context than most NFL quarterbacks, I would say, just because of the way he thinks of himself as a citizen of the world. So, that being said, maybe I wouldn't be like this in front of the media if I were Joe, or maybe his agent advising him on this for what you said, between the contract, the injuries, the fact that he really banged the table for the Bengals to go out and then have the offseason that they literally did for him. Like he asked for this, right? Like he didn't ask to be hurt, but he asked for the roster to be constructed this way. And like, yes, the Brown family could invest more in other ways and not have the situation where he needs to go on a press tour during Super Bowl week and advocate for this and put pressure on the organization. Um, but yeah, I mean, it sucks for Joe. I get it. Like the money and the fame and the success, like it doesn't always equate to happiness. We see this in our society all the time.
We
So
see
I don't
that
think
with our
it's
vodcast, right? We see that with our vodcast.
yeah, because I make a lot of money. So that's it makes no sense why I'm miserable. But what do the Bengals do now? Like, what does Joe do? Is he wasting his career? I'm going to say no because he gets to throw to the two guys he wants to throw to. So it's on them now. Like, go figure it out.
Right. Exactly, boom. And it does suck for Burrow because he's had lots of injuries in his career, whether it's, the turf toe this year that kept him out of the majority. He blew out his rookie year. He blew out his knee. Like it sucks for Joe. It really does. But it's also a situation where you make your bed, you lay in it, right? Like to your point, he asked for the Jamar Chase signing. He asked for the T. Higgins signings. Like it put them in a tough financial spot, but you make it work because you're Joe Burrow, right? This is what you get to do when you're a franchise passer. Now, to your point too, you can't go out there in the media and really stir this up. How often do we hear in the NFL about distractions, right? And I understand the Bengals aren't going anywhere this season, but the last thing you want are distractions. And that comes from anybody on the team. That comes from the 53rd guy in the roster. Now, to have the face of your organization, probably one of the best player in your franchise history among them, to go out in a press conference and be this way and have people questioning your cryptic messaging and all that, it's a distraction, man, and it's not pretty. Now, ultimately, I think Joe Burrow is going to be okay. I think Jamar Chase had a very telling quote where he said, "Joe's been there for me, so I just have to be there for him." Like those are teammates have been through it all, have seen it all. So he's going to get the support there, and that Joe Burrow is tired of not winning. I think that's the biggest part too. Like they make it to the Super Bowl, they lose the Super Bowl. He wants to get back there. He had the greatest college season ever that resulted in a national championship. He just wants to win, and we've seen it through the years, man. Cincinnati might not be a place where he can figure that out. So we'll see what they do this offseason, but I'd be surprised if Burrow was traded. I don't think it's fair to say that he's wasting his career there because he signed the contract there. He had his buddies, his teammates sign their contracts there. So I think this is just a situation where you just got to kind of have to grit your teeth and deal with it.
Yeah, the Bengals might waste him.
Hmm.
Like I think it's kind of the inverse. And look, I think just to wrap it up on Joe, he made it pretty clear that like there's, I mean, at least my read on it, is that there's something else going on in his life outside of football
Hmm.
right now. So Joe, we hope that you're good, man, and that it gets better because it does. And he's just been, I think back to the robbery, the home robbery that he dealt with, like that has to be traumatizing. So um, you know, get well soon, Joe.
Yeah, we're supporting you, Joe. We hope you win lots of games.